Hi everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. So this video is in continuation to the previous video where we talked about the basics of Pandas library and Python environment. In this video we'll be continuing with the same CSV file that we downloaded in our previous video. We have one electronic card transactions March 2020 CSV tables CSV file. I downloaded it from the website. The link to that website is already present on the previous video. We went ahead and we looked at what exactly is a data frame and how to explore the data frame, the couple of functions like head, tail, and the shape of the data frame. So for the sake of example, let me show you the rerun of that. So we have a data frame we have already loaded in a Pandas library. PD is the alias to the Pandas library, and we have one function related to the data frame, which is df.head and then open and close bracket. So this tells us the top 5 rows of the data frame, and here you can see the bold columns, bold names which are present on top of the first row. These are basically the columns which are, and the corresponding values in that specific column downside are below the respective values which are present to that specific column. So this is how a data frame is structured, and there are other associated functions with it, like for example df.shape, which has 16805 cross 14. So this tells us that in this data frame df, it has around 16,805 rows and 14 such columns. Now if you want to see the columns, we can type in df.columns and it will tell you all the associated columns which are present in this data frame. Now if you want to relate how a data frame would be in a native Python data structures, you can assume or you can relate to it as a dictionary, where the keys are basically the columns of a Pandas data frame and the values are basically the corresponding values in a dictionary. So I have written a small code snippet for your understanding. So here I have created a dictionary where the keys, for example the color, season and continents, and the corresponding values are basically the red, summer and Asia. So this is basically a standard dictionary which is present, which is typically in a Python environment. Now if you want to access any of the keys, what you do is simply type in the variable name of the dictionary name basically, and type in the key, like colors for example here. So it will tell you the corresponding values that are present to that specific key in the dictionary. Now that's the same way you can also access the data frame, the specific columns as well as the corresponding values to that specific column in a data frame. Now if but so far you only have one key corresponding, one value corresponding to another key. In a data frame, what happens is that for a specific key which is column in data frame, there are more than one values present for the corresponding key. So what you can view a data frame is like, let's say you have a colors as a key and the corresponding rows for uh, that key in a pandas data frame would be the corresponding values in a dictionary. So for the sake for the colors key, we have red, blue, green and yellow as the corresponding values, and those are stored in a dictionary in a list format. So for every key there is a list of 4 values here. Now remember, the shapes are always the number of entities which are present in the as a list in for a given key is always same. If you want to prepare or convert the data frame, the given dictionary into a data frame, but you can always change or keep the numbers different as per your need, or if you are just working on a dictionary in a Python environment and not trying to convert the dictionary back to a pandas data frame. So that's one caveat you have to look for. So for this example, we have the seasons, colors and continents as 3 keys, and for each of the key we have only the 4 entities which are present as in a list format as values for the corresponding keys. Now if you want to access each of the keys, let's say for colors, you can do that by simply passing the dictionary name and the open close square bracket followed by the key name and in quotes. Now this will tell you the corresponding sorry, I didn't run it. Now if you this will tell you the corresponding value associated to that key. Now that value is basically a list of all 4 colors for the colors key. Now if you want to access more than one entity out of the sample data frame, sample dictionary, then you can do that by passing a list of columns for that dictionary. So here I will go with colors and season, and this will tell you sorry, this is basically, you don't have to do that, just have to season. Okay, so it's basically giving us key error. So this means that it cannot tell you more than one keys if you are looking for that. So for that you have to iterate through the sample data, sample key, sample dictionary in order to access each of the keys, each of the values present for a given key. Now to do that, you in a typical Python environment, you can do that for in a for loop fashion. This way you can access key comma values for respective key. Now if you want to convert that to a sample data frame, what you can do is you just have to convert pt.data frame, and this will convert the the given dictionary into a data frame. Now thing to remember here is that the number of values for a given key should always remain same for all the keys in the dictionary. So here we have color, season and continents, and each of them has 4 values in a list format. So this way it will be able to successfully convert this dictionary to a pandas data frame. You can relate it to, you can assign it to a new data frame as a variable. So we have a brand new data frame which is containing color, season and continents as keys. Now the next thing you want to do is, let's say you want to access the colors column. So you can do it just like the dictionary earlier, which you were used to doing, to access all the 4 colors for a given colors key in a dictionary sample. Now here also you are able to access the corresponding rows for the colors key, and if you check the type of it, it is basically a pandas core.series, which is another way of saying that a pandas series is basically a one-dimensional array. So here also a list is basically just one-dimensional array stored for a given key in a dictionary sample. Now if you want to access more than one keys, you can do that by passing a list of column names as a as an option in a data frame. So let's say I want to access colors and season. So it will tell me, one second, sorry, there is a spelling mistake. So it will tell me colors and season as a list of as 2 lists basically, but now this is not just one series, but there are 2 entities out of this data frame. So it's basically a snapshot or a copy of the new data frame which is given as an output. Now if you check the type of this output, it will tell you pandas core.frame.data frame. So essentially if there are more than one series given as an output from a data frame, it's essentially a copy of the data frame, and the type will also be a data frame. Now this is with the columns. Likewise, you can also access the corresponding rows from the data frame as well. So in order to do that, you can type in new data frame, and then there is method called loc or ilog. So there are basically two quite frequently used methods. One is log and there is another is called ilog. Now we'll start with ilog method. So ilog is basically integer based location determination for indexes. So indexes are basically the rows here which are labeled by default as numerical indices in increasing order. So we have 0, 1, 2 and 3 indexes. Now if you want to access the 0th row, you just have to pass newdiv.ilog 0, and it will tell you the first row, which is red, summer and Asia. Now if you check the type of it, it will also be a one-dimensional series or one-dimensional array or a series. Now if you want to access more than one row at a time, then you can also do that by passing a list of rows that you want to access. So let's say I want to access first row and third row, so I can pass 0, 3. So it will tell me red, summer, Asia and yellow, spring and Antarctica. So these are the rows that I have chosen based on the corresponding indexes for these rows. Now it may happen that you want to access from a given range of rows as well. So let's say you want to access from 1 to 3. So from the second row to the last row, you can do that by passing 1 colon 3. So this colon is basically is used in Python, native Python environment, and is supported in the Pandas library as well. So it basically tells the Python to look for the range of indexes from the first, which is the starting value, to till the end, till third row, till last row, which is 3 here. So it will tell you, 1 second. uh, Second. Yeah, so I forgot to mention here that while you're using this slicing method, you need to be cautious about using the more than two brackets, more than one bracket in the iloc method. So here, if you choose the 1 to 3, it's basically the first row and the second row. The second row and third row would be selected, and the final row, which would be skipped from here. So this way you can choose a range of the indexes also. Now if you also want to look at the corresponding columns as well, let's say, but for now you are able to view all of the columns here, let's say color, season and content. And if you want to just look at, let's say, only for season column, you can pass in the specific column number here, because it's an integer based location, so you need to pass this column number instead of the column names. So colors here is basically column at index 0, season at index 1, and continents at index 2. So if you want to look at the season column only for each of these two rows, you can pass the number as 1. So it will tell you the fall and winter for these two rows. Likewise, you can also pass, let's say, from 0 to 0 to 2 onwards. So it will tell you only those two columns, which is basically the setting up the indexing, or the setting up the range of the columns that you want to select, based but only in numerical fashion. Now this was all about indexing based on the numbers, numerical based indexing or looking for the rows as well as columns. Likewise, you can also use dot loc method, which provides us the similar support, just like dot iloc method. But here, instead of passing the actual column names, you can also column numbers, you can also pass, you have to pass the column names instead. So let's say you want to identify the couple of rows. Let's say I want to just check the nvidia.log 0. So it will tell you the first row. And for this row, if you want to, let's say, pick the season column, so you can pass in the comma, you can type comma and followed by in the bracket, in quotes, you pass in the column name. So it will tell you the corresponding column for that row specific. So for 0th row, we have summer as a column, so that will be given as an output. Now, like the similarly, like iLog, we can also pass the range of columns that we are interested in to look at. So it will tell you from 0th row to the third, to the second last row. It will basically skip the last row and will give us the output for the chosen column or the specified column name here. So these are the two basic methods which are most commonly used when accessing the data frames by columns or by rows. Now we'll be going back to our data frame, and here we can apply the same method. So you can see here we have a status as one columns unit. So these are the columns, they have different columns, and if you want to just access to each of these columns, you can pass, let's say, status, and will tell you all these columns values which are present over here. Now one thing to know here is there are specific methods that you can pass in, that you can apply. Let's say I have a value counts method. So what this value counts method does is basically it will check for all the specific kind of categorical variables that are present in that specific column, and it will tell you the number of times that those specific values are basically occurring in that data frame. So we have a status as a column, and within that we have R, F, C, and P are different types of categorical values that are present in that column. So value count methods essentially counts the number of times R occurred in that TF status column, number of times F and C and P occurred, and it basically tells us a frequency diagram, frequency count for each of the categories which are present in that column. So this is a pretty handy method that is used in data science. Other associated methods we can look at. Should I say? I think you can do that for all of the columns. Specifically, you can also pass in, let's say, you can check the number of null values which are present in each of the columns. So let's say we have data value as a column name, and if you want to check the number of rows which contain the null values in it, that means they have no values present, or there is a null any value present in that df data value column. So this method dot is null bracket dot sum will tell us the number of times number of rows basically which contains the null values present in that column. Now this was all about accessing different types of columns or rows in a data frame. There's one more thing that I wanted to highlight here is there are two methods in order to access a different column name from a data frame variable. So let's say we have a new data frame as my newly created data frame. Now what you can do here is you can also access the corresponding column name by passing the dot column name as a variable. So let's say I have newdf dot season. It will tell me all of the values which are present in the newdf dot season column. So this is basically the dot notation that is provided by the pandas library. There's another method which we have already used, which is passing the the column names within bracket. So let newdf dot season, it will also give us the same result. But it may happen that the associated functions which are present from the pandas library may have the same name as the data frame itself, as one of the columns in the data frame itself. So let's say I had one column name, let's say as newdf.count. So newdf.count is if that is the column name of a data frame, and newdf.count is one of the method that is provided by the pandas native library as well. So then there will be a conflict, and you will not be getting the expected results as you might be thinking of. So in order to avoid those cases, it's always better to use non-conflicting ways of accessing the data, the rows or columns. So always prefer the brackets method. But if you are very sure that a column name of that attribute is not present, then you can also follow the dot notation to access a specific column or an index from a data frame. So that's all for now. We'll be preparing another video, and we'll be talking about them. We'll be talking about the indexes in more detail. But for now, this is all I have right now. And if you like this video, try hitting subscribe button, and we'll meet in the next video.